Hello and good evening, CSI157 Section 841 students for the Spring 2014 semester at Anne Arundel Community College. This video tutorial is going to walk you through the Chapter 6 Packet Tracer Skills Assessment activity, and we're going to go ahead and start that assessment right now. It says that you'll have 2 hours to complete the assignment, however, I don't anticipate it taking us that long. Alright, it says if you've already closed your Cisco Packet Tracer, do not submit, re-log in to resume the assessment. Check your work, and then return to this page to submit the assessment. And so right now it's going to initialize. And this should take a few seconds. And one of the nice things about this assignment is that it can be paused, and then you can pick up from where you left off. All right, so here's our packet tracer window. We'll move that up over here. And resize our window a bit. Okay, and then here's our packet tracer skills activity instructions. So go ahead and actually resize these windows a little bit more. Okay, so here's our topology table, and this is very similar to some of the packet tracer activities that we performed this week in some of the different packet tracer activities that were completed. So requirements: determine the missing values from the address table, configure all devices with the missing default gateway values, name the BIOS switch BIO, and your configuration must match this exactly, secure access to configuration lines of the BIOS switch, secure access to the device configurations of the BIOS switch using an encrypted password, ensure that plain text passwords on the BIOS switch are encrypted, configure an appropriate banner on the BIOS switch, configure addressing for all devices according to the addressing table. Most values are provided in the table, others you must determine. Document interfaces with descriptions on the science router interfaces and the BIOS switch virtual interface, which will be the VLAN. Save my configurations, and then verify connectivity between all devices. All devices should be able to ping all of the other devices, and then troubleshoot any connectivity issues. So let's go ahead and tackle this one at a time. So determine the missing values from the addressing table. Well, clearly the values that we're missing are going to be the default gateway values, and those would be here on the science router. And so that's where the default gateway should point. So step number 2, configure all devices with the missing default gateway values. Name the BIOS switch BIO. And so for the default gateway values, let's go ahead and take a look at the router. And let's see if the router has any configuration information. We'll go from user exec into privilege exec, and then we'll do the show run command. And as you can see, none of the interfaces, physical or virtual, have been configured to this point. Right? So again, this is very similar to one of the activities, one of the packet tracer activities from this chapter. And so if we scoot this over here just a little bit, we can see that we have the values right here in terms of the science router. For the gig 00 interface, we have the IP address, and for the gig 01 interface, we also have an IP address here with corresponding subnet masks. So let's go ahead and add those configurations in now. So we're going to go into global config mode and then into interface configuration mode, and we'll do gigabit 0/0 first. So I'll enter the no shut command to bring the interface into an up state. We're going to add the IP address for gig 00, which is 172.16.5.1 with a class C subnet mask, a /24 of 255.255.255.0, And then we'll add a description here as default gateway interface. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and exit out from that interface configuration mode, and we'll switch into interface gigabit 0/1 and make that and configure this interface. So we'll bring the interface up, we'll add in the IP address again, and this time it's going to be a 192.168.5.1, and again /24 Class C subnet mask. We'll put a quick description in here, and we're going to call this default gateway interface. Okay, so we've actually configured, and you'll notice that they did turn green, so we'll do an end there, and I'm going to do a write mem to make sure that we save our configuration off. All right, so these are going to be the default gateway values for the physical LAN on the right hand side and the biology LAN on the left hand side. So let's scroll down a little bit and see what we've got here. So configure all devices with the missing default gateway values. So now that the router has been set up, let's take a look at the switch, and let's see on the fizz switch. Let me bring this down just a little bit here. So there's a VLAN that needs to be configured. So we can do that, but we can also take a look to see if that default gateway statement exists on the switch. And here it is, IP default gateway. So for all traffic that's generated by the switch, and again, this is different than traffic that's transiting the switch. So this would be if we're doing a ping command. So again, traffic generated by the switch. And so is this correct? 192.168.5.1, and that certainly is the correct address. And let's see if we can ping 192.168.5.1. Let's see if it works. So the first packet times out. So we're getting some timeouts here. And so it's not working. All right, so we'll have to figure out why it's not working. Okay, so the interface VLAN 1 value, as you can see here, the IP address is 192.168.51.252, but when we look up here, we see it's 168.5.252, and it's a /24, whereas here, the subnet mask has been stretched out to a /29. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to change that right now. So we'll go into interface configuration mode into VLAN 1, and we want to enter in 51.252. So we'll do IP address. We'll correct the address here. So it's going to be 192.168.5.252, and this is going to be a 255.255.255.0. So we'll bring that interface, make sure it's in the no shut state. We'll add a quick description here and just say VLAN 1 interface. All right. So we fixed that interface. And let's see if that assists us at all with our ping command. See if we can ping our default gateway yet. And there we go. Now the ping actually works, whereas before it did not. So by fixing the VLAN 1 entry, we're able to now ping. Okay, so let's take a look over here, and it says configure devices with the missing default gateways. So let's go ahead and go around and we'll set the default gateways for all of our hosts. So we'll do the fizz1 here and see what we've got for the static. So the fizz1 would be 192. Whoops, make sure I get that right. 192.168.5.10, and the subnet mask is going to be a Class C, and the default gate will be 192.168.5.1. All right, so let's shut that, and can we ping the default gateway? So ping 192.168.5.1, and sure enough, we have connectivity. All right, so we'll shut that down. Let's fix the default gateway here. And again, no IP address information here, so let's make that happen. 192.168.5.11, and the default subnet mask for the Class C is correct, and 192.168.5.1. So we'll shut that down, and then let's try the ping command. 192.168.5.1. All right, so we can ping the default gateway. Okay, so now over to the biology LAN. So we have the bio switch, and it says name the bio switch bio. So what they're looking for there is the host, whoops, me shrink that down a little bit. What they're looking for there is that host name command. So let's see what the name of the BIOS switch is right now. It's just switch. So let's go from user exec mode into privilege exec, from privilege exec into global config, and from global config let's set our host name up to BIO. And so then you can see there it's taken immediately. Now let's go ahead and take a look. Do we have a default gateway statement here? We do not. And this was very similar again to that chapter 6 packet tracer that we had to complete. So we want to make sure we get that taken care of. So from privilege exec to global config, IP default gateway, and our default gateway on the biology LAN is going to be 172.16.5.1. All right. So from here, if I exit out, I'm going to go ahead and save my configuration. Can I ping 172.16.5.1, which would be the default gateway for the biology LAN? And let's see if it's working. And it's not. Very similar to the physics switch, it's not working. And if you remember, we have not configured VLAN 1. So VLAN 1 is shut down right now. So let's see if we can fix that by going back into global config mode, into interface config mode for VLAN 1, and let's configure that interface. So first we'll bring the interface up. We'll assign an IP address, and over here it's going to be 172.16.5.2, and it'll be a /24 as well. And once that's configured, we can go ahead and check and see. And now, once we have this configured, we should be able to get a successful ping from this switch over to the default gateway. But let me put a quick description on here and we'll just say, oops, VLAN 1 interface. All right, and we already did the no shut command. So if I type end, write memory to save my configuration, and can we ping now? 172.16.5.1. Let's see if we can hit that default gateway, and sure enough, after the ARP cache populated, we certainly can. All right, so the BIOS switch for right now has its default gateway. It's properly set up. So let's take a look at BIO 1 PC. As you can see here, we have no information. So let's add that IP address information in here, 172.16.5, and BIO 1 is going to be .10. And you can see here, since we're using a 172.16, that's a Class B address, and so it automatically populates the Class B default subnet mask. However, that is not the subnet mask we need. We need a Class C, so we'll add the 255.255.255.0/24 subnet mask, and now we'll add our gateway in 172.16.5.1, and I'll in the configuration there, and so then we can ping 172.16.5.1, and sure enough we have connectivity from the BIO 1 PC to our default gateway. Let's check the BIO 2 PC and see what we've got here. All right, again, no configuration, so we'll do 172.16.5.11, and again we need to adjust the subnet mask to a /24. And again, remember that it's a Class B address, and the class of the address never changes. So that first octet, the 172, is going to dictate what class address this is. It's a Class B. We're simply applying a Class C subnet mask. However, that does not make this address a Class C address. It'll always be a Class B address. All right, and so then we'll add the default gateway in for BIO 2, and then let's run the ping command and see what we get. 172.16.5.1. All right, and so we have connectivity from the BIO PCs to their default gateway. So let's keep moving on down here. So we've configured all devices with the missing default gateway values. We've named the BIO switch BIO, and that matches. So secure access to all configuration lines on the BIO switch. So let's open the BIO switch back up, and now this is saying all configuration lines. So we're going to go ahead and do the console line as well as the VTY line. So we'll first do line con 0, and we'll go ahead and say password, and we'll make it Cisco, and we want it to take place at the login, or for you to be prompted. We'll go out, we'll go into the VTY line 0 to 15, and then we'll do password Cisco, and make it at the login. Okay, so we have secured access to all configuration lines on the BIOS switch. It says secure access to the device configurations on the BIOS switch using the encrypted password. So we'll back out here and we're going to go ahead and set the encrypted password. So enable secret. And now remember, when we do the enable secret, we're going to go ahead and use an unencrypted password will follow. So we'll say Cisco. And then it says ensure that all plain text passwords, and so that was the service password encryption command. This ensures that all plain text passwords on the BIOS switch are encrypted. And so we entered that command. So we've got the encrypted password for the device configurations. We've got the lines secured. We've ensured that all plain text passwords are going to be encrypted. And now it says configure an appropriate banner. So that was the banner MOTD, and I like to use the $sign as my delimiting character. And so now we can put any unauthorized access is prohibited. Okay, and then we'll end that with our $sign. So there's our banner message. Okay, so we've got the appropriate banner configured, and now we want to configure addressing for all devices according to the addressing table, which to this point we've pretty much done. It says most values are provided in the table, others you must determine. And typically we're only determining the default gateway value. So let's go ahead and write this configuration out and let's test it. So when I hit enter, I'm prompted with a password. I type in Cisco. Let's see if we've protected the configuration, because remember, if I type show run from user exec mode, it says it's invalid input, because remember, in order to show the configuration, you need to be in privileged exec mode, and yes, it worked. So we're prompted with the password. So now let's do show run. You can see here the enable secret password is encrypted. The host name is bio. Service password encryption, which we can confirm down here, and we have passwords set on the console line as well as all of the VTY lines. So we're good there. Okay, so document interfaces with descriptions on the science router interfaces and the BIOS switch virtual interface. So we have a description on the BIOS switch interface, and now we're going to need to document the interfaces on the science router. And so let's pull the science router up and let's make sure that we've got some descriptions there. So we do have a description on gig 00, we have a description on gig 01, and VLAN 1 is not being used on that router. And let's check to make sure that's correct. So the VLAN 1 is not configured on the science router, and we don't need to do that. So we've got the descriptions, save your configurations, verify connectivity between all the devices, and all the devices should be able to communicate with the other devices. So let's go ahead and just one last time, let's make sure we've got our configuration saved. So we'll do a write mem there, and we'll stop or close that window. We'll pull the router up and we'll do the write mem command here, save our configuration there, and we'll come over to the switch, the physics switch, and then we're going to do a write mem and save our configuration there. So the configurations have all been saved. So now let's see if we can ping from physics 1, and let's try to ping over to one of the other PCs, the 172.16.5.10. And as you can see, we can ping across to BIO 1. Let's try to ping BIO 2, which would be .11. So we're good there. We'll pull physics 2 back up, and we'll attempt the same thing, 172.16.5.10. All right, it's working perfectly. And then .11. And that is also working. Okay, and now let's try the opposite direction. From BIO 1, we'll go to 192.168. I just forgot the IPs there. 192.168.5.10. Oh, sorry about that. Ping 192.168.5.10. All right, and that's working perfect. And then we'll try .5.11. And so we can ping across there, and so everything seems to be working. So again, let's just take one last look here, and I think we're all done. Document the interfaces, so we've done that. We've saved our configs, we've verified connectivity. Really no need to troubleshoot any problems, and everything looks good. So unless we've missed something, or unless I look past something, we should be good to go. All right, so from here, I'm going to come over to the Packet Tracer Skills Assessment, and I want to go ahead and submit my assessment. I'm not sure if I should save it. Let me check real quick here. So let me pull this up, and let's see if we need to save this here. All right, so it can't be saved, so let's go ahead and simply submit. And so it's going to go ahead and submit the work. And this should provide us with our grade and some feedback if this has been completed successfully. And so I'll go ahead and pause here and wait for it to complete, and then we'll start the recording up. Okay, so we're back, and it went ahead and completed the grading. And as you can see here, I just wrapped up. It's about 10:45 Eastern Time, and the maximum points were 100. The earned points were 100, and it was 100%. All right, so this has been the tutorial and sort of a review as to the Chapter 6 Skills Assessment, the Packet Tracer Skills Assessment activity. And I hope this video was useful, and I will see you all tomorrow evening. Have a great night.